Hi, and welcome to this mini tutorial on how to create some really cool glitchy type using the new Data Glitch 2.0 from Robite. So this is the example render. Let's take a quick look. Okay, so the main new feature in Data Glitch 2 is the fact that you can actually apply the glitch to layers with an alpha channel, such as type. And there's also this very cool rectangular glitch, which you see very clearly here at the end, where it gets really kind of mushy like this. This kind of this stuff here is the rectangular glitch, which is super sweet. So the reason this is called a mini tutorial is we're not going to show you every single step of how this was done, because a lot of this was just basically experimenting with the plugin, you know, getting something that looked cool and then just going with it. So it would be almost impossible to recreate. But I am providing the project file for download so you can play around and take a look at all the settings and see how exactly it was created. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just show you a couple of tips, some of the things that were kind of, you know, easy to make this work. So the first thing I want to sort of go over is the fact that we have we have the text layers, which there are a few here, but this only because I was just chopping it up. And then there's the video layer, which is in the back, which is actually very simple. If we turn off the type and preview this, you will see that by just simply applying Data Glitch and not animating the seed random or any of the values, it almost is just like this offset matte mask thing that actually is pretty cool looking. And what it allowed me to do is allow me to then animate the type kind of crazy on top and not have it be too much. So if we so you can see there how it's just you know, this simple plate but it's kind of a thing, and it also created the color palette that also came from Data Glitch. The only thing I did on top of that is I kind of cranked the gamma to crush the colors a little bit. And so then what I did is I took the this sound effects that I got from Audio Jungle here, which we can take a listen to here. So if we go, so I just took the sound effects and then I went and I did a keyframe assistant convert audio to keyframes, which gave me this layer, which basically just gives me, if we took a look at this, you can see it gives me data values for the audio up and down. And what I did for the first item here, actually the very first Robite, I just animated this by hand. So I just keyframed the glitch count and the seed random by hand, just on the sound coming in and out. If you hit LL, you can see you can see here where there was little sound bits. I just kind of animated them, and I like doing that. Sometimes I like doing things with expressions and automated, and sometimes I like to do things by hand. I think it's that balance that gives you sort of interesting results. I wanted this to feel designy, I guess sort of inspired by the Designers Republic early work for Warp, which did a lot of this sort of digital thing. Obviously, it's a interpretation of that, not obviously the same. But since it was Aphex Twin in the background, I was kind of going on that tip. And so I did this by hand, and then here, as you can see, I towards the end, I animated up the rectangular glitch, which is like this really super sweet glitch that really makes it all go. And then by being just alpha channeled, you kind of get this sorry about that, you get this interesting composition. And because the glitch is being, the color is being generated by Data Glitch, we get a very sort of similar color palette which composites well. And I also used the YUV on both of these. When you switch this to RGB, you get a different color palette. You can see here you get the red, greens, and blues separated. So by staying in YUV, I got the more of the yellowy and greenish color palette. It also gives you a little bit of blue. Then when we got, so there's a little break in the music, and then we got into this really scritchy part. I kind of just went a little bit crazy here. And by the way, notice that when you scrub, it actually renders on the GPU, so it kind of gives you a little bit of a different result, which is kind of interesting. So here we go. Here I'm animating the data glitch. Now this is where I started using expressions, and this is where I'm going to start the tutorial. So as you can see, I wrote an expression here where I take the audio amplitude. So if I reveal the keyframes, I just used the both channels, but you can link to any one of these. And if you scrub, you can see how it the value just kind of goes up and down. You can also take a look at it. You can take a look at it in the graph editor. So you can see here the values just spike up and down, almost like a very choppy sine wave. So what I thought is, well, let me do the glitch amount, just kind of go crazy when the value goes up and then go down again when the value goes down. And the way I was able to do that easily is by going, in this case I did, it was the offset glitch amount, but you can literally link this to any value. You could do it to the glitch count. In this case I did it to the offset glitch amount and to the rect glitch amount. And I'm just going to redo this one here. So the first thing I did was decide, well, how much glitch amount do I want? So 10% looks like that, 0 looks like that, and then if I go really high, then it just almost, you lose it all. So I thought 10 was a good amount to go up to. And then I went and I studied the values for both channels. So let me just close these. So here I kind of scrubbed and I saw, okay, so it goes between like 7.5. It never kind of goes to 0. It kind of looks, so there's 6, there's about 30. So if you look at it in the graph editor, you can kind of see the peak. So here it looks like the highest amount is at around 30, and then the lowest amount, which is like say around here, is around 6. So I wrote a simple expression where I linked, so if I hold down the Alt key and click here, I get an expression. And then you can, I'm just going to say A for amplitude equals, and I'm just going to go down to, or sorry, audio, and then I'm just going to, might need to make this bigger. So let's delete that. That was a mistake. I'm going to hit the tilde to expand this, and I'm going to try this again. So offset amount, I'm going to just say A equals for audio equals, and I'm just going to drag it to the both channel slider. So that gives me a link to this value. And then I'm going to write an expression which is used in the function linear, which allows me to remap values. So remember how I wanted to go between 6 and 30. So I'm going to say, in a linear fashion, I want, while the value A goes from 6 to 30, I want my resulting values to be between 0 and 10. Right? So there we go. So now when the value is close to 6, it's going to be close to 0. And when the value is close to 30, like it is here, you can see then the offset is close to 10%. So that's how I wrote that expression, and that allowed me to just have this animate automatically. So it just kind of, I didn't have to worry about synchronizing its sound. It kind of did it on its own. So we'll just go ahead and take a look at this section. So even though if it seems really chaotic, what's really cool is it actually is animating to exactly the sound effect. So mind you, I'm animating to the sound effect and not to the actual music. That's a little trick because sound effects are clearer. They kind of go on and off much clearer. Music usually has less contrast. So by animating to the sound effect, I got more distinct motions. The other trick I wanted to show you guys is you can, let's take a look here. So if you can see here in compression, in image compression, you can apply an image map. So if we go ahead and solo this, and by the way, just so you can see here how it's actually applying it to the alpha channel, which is great. So I'm going to go ahead and go to a place where this is close to 0. And let's see, I'm going to turn off the scan glitch. And I'm going to turn off the block glitch, and just going to turn up the image compression here. So as you can see, I'm applying this image map here, and I have a cool little tip to create cool image maps for these kinds of glitchy effects. I created a new comp, and I'm going to just recreate this so you can see. I created a solid that was the width of the comp, so I go make comp size, but the height I'm just going to make 1 pixel, and you can see you get this little line, and to that I applied fractal noise, and then if I go to the scale and I unlink it and I just scale up the Y, you kind of have to do this quite a bit until you can see the handles. Then you can pull them. You get this very organic looking sort of line thing, and if you scrub, nothing happens. So what you need to do is animate the evolution. So if you put an expression on the evolution and you can just say time times 1,000, you can see it down here, it's going to animate the evolution. So I'm going to get this cool moving thing, but right now it's a little bit too organic. To make it more digital, I'm going to switch the fractal type to, sorry, the noise type to block, so I already get more defined things, and then you can play with the different fractal types and you'll see the different results, and you can just keep playing with it. I think I just stuck with turbulent smooth, so if you can see, because it has a nice amount of contrast, but you can also still increase the contrast or decrease the contrast or however you want. So I just left it, I think, at the default. So this is the map that I used for both the image compression as well as the block glitch. As you can see here, the map is the image map being applied. So it applies these two effects by, you know, wherever there's white, it applies the image compression, and whenever it's black, it's not. So by having this very vertical digital sort of map, it enhances the effect. And let's see, there's one other trick that helps this data glitch effect, and that's I wanted to animate the type position, because data glitch does this really good job sort of offsetting and things, but the actual type itself stays in the same place. So I wanted to actually have the type jump around. So if I turn off data glitch for a second, you're going to see here how the type is jumping around, but it's jumping around. Let me just end it here. So you can see here how it literally is jumping, and the way I achieve that is I'm actually using a wiggle, but I'm using another sort of not very well known expression called posterized time, and I'm going to create a new comp just to illustrate how that works. So just go ahead and type here data glitch. So of course this is just an After Effects tip, but I think this goes well with using data glitch. So if I just go to position and I say wiggle, say 24 frames per second, and have it jump 250 pixels, and we go ahead and frame it. So this here, let's just do a little bit. This is just really chaotic. What I wanted it to do is I wanted it to jump mostly vertically, and more like jump, stop, jump, stop, jump, stop. If we go back here, you're going to see the difference. Alright, so the way I achieve that is two ways. First of all, when you apply wiggle, it applies it both to the X and the Y channel. If you want to separate them, you can create what's called an array, and you do that by doing an open bracket, and then you can so wiggle does both values. So if you just want one value, then you need to just extract just the X, then you put a bracket here and you say take value 0, and then I can just do the same thing, and then I want to take value 1, which would be Y, and then I close the brackets. Now I'm going to have two separate wiggles, one on the X and one on the Y, and this is where now I can control the amount. So on Y I want it to go 250, but on X, say I just want it to go 10. So if we preview this, it's just you're going to see that it is jumping now a lot more vertically, but it's still the traditional wiggle that, let's turn this off so you can see it better. So now the traditional wiggle where it's kind of always moving, it never actually stops. So this is where this posterized time, so if I go before it and I just say posterized time, and then you can actually tell it what frame rate you want to posterize it to. So let's say I want to posterize it to 5 frames per second. I just do 5. So now if I preview this, it's going to animate at 5 frames per second. So it's actually still doing the wiggle, but it's sort of posterizing the wiggle to 5 frames per second. And what you could do is animate that value. So if I go ahead and apply, let's see here, an expression control, slider control, I can call this just FPS, right, so frames per second. And I'm just going to highlight the 5 and then apply it to the slider. So now I can actually animate, so I can have it start at 30 frames per second, and then set a keyframe, and then have it end at 1 frame per second. So now it's going to start really fast, but then slowly start slowing down. And you can see there. So as you can see, now it's going at 1 frames per second, but then it's going to, now it's at 30, and it's going to continue going down, and then there. Let's see. So this is basically what I did over here. So as you can see, I have the posterized time connected to a slider, and then I'm doing one other thing, and that's to stop the frequency. I did something called a multiplier, which will be let's see, M is it's on a different layer. So layer data glitch 2. Here we go. So I created another slider called the wiggle multiplier, and here you can basically, if I like the 24 frames per second, and I'm gonna go ahead and apply this again. So I'm just gonna call this wiggle multiplier. And so I can animate this thing from 1 to 0. So let's take a look here. And what that's going to do, so I'm going to then create another variable here called m, and I'm going to slide it up to the wiggle multiplier. So now I can multiply either the frequency, which is at 24, the frames per second, if you will, times m here. So, and I'll do the same for the y channel. So what this does is it just multiplies 24 times 1 at the beginning here. So I'm actually also going to leave it at 30 frames per second just so you can get an idea of what's happening. So I'm just going to remove these keyframes for the posterized time. So here it starts by multiplying it by 1, so 24 times 1 is 24. But as we start getting lower, so like when it gets to 0.5, so 24 times 0.5, which is essentially divided by 2, is now giving me 12 frames per second, and so on and so forth until it gets to 0, and then it's going to stop. So let's see how that feels. So it's just another sort of cheeky way of slowing down the frame rate, but notice how the difference here is that here it's always a smooth motion. So you see it, especially when it's getting slower, you can really kind of feel it sort of swimming, if you will. And I wanted to avoid that swimming feel, which is why I used both posterized time and the multiplier. So those are two little tips expression-wise that I used in this animation. And then basically the other last thing I really wanted to emphasize is how cool the rect glitch is with. So I'm just going to apply it here. So if we zero everything out and we just take a look at the rect glitch. So you gotta turn the data glitch count up, and then we're gonna turn up the rect glitch here. So you can see I'm gonna look at it with a key, and then you can turn up the amplitude. And I'm gonna go ahead and do RGB and turn up the glitch count here. So you can see this might be a little bit too much. Let's just bring it down. So you can see. You can also, by the way, turn off the per channel seed. All of these options, by the way, are covered in the tutorial. So let's go back to RGB. And so one thing you can do with the rect glitch is you can just animate it from full in, so to 0, which makes very simply a great sort of animated effect. Obviously this still has the the wiggle on it, which is making it interesting in there. Also when you're animating data glitch, you kind of want to put you probably want to animate the seed random as well. So I'm just gonna put some keyframes on seed random so that it's always moving. So I'm just gonna go to 100. So you'll see here how that makes the glitch animate around. Turn off the transparency so you can see it. So that might have been too much range. I think it'd probably benefit from the other thing you have to do is bring down the glitch. Here, let's see. We haven't gotten to the end of it yet. There we go. So probably not quite so much. Let's just go less, something like that. So here you could just very easily animate type that is completely just distorted and chopped up and become one piece of type. So let's go ahead and preview that in real time. So again, this also has the type wiggle, so could definitely be a cool piece of movie title animation, something like that, very simply. So hope you guys enjoyed this mini tutorial. Again, please feel free to dig in all of the settings and all of the keyframes for all these things. To make my life easier, I cut up the type into different layers so I didn't have to kind of keyframe too many things. I could just reset the data glitch effect and kind of start new. Some of these effects are not keyframeable, for example scan type. So if you wanted to play around with different scan types, just cut it like this. Just chop the layer off and then apply two different versions of data glitch. You can do that also with if you wanted to sort of switch the image map, although you could animate the image map in the pre-comp as well. There's one last thing. If you look, there's alpha mode. So normal is this new mode where you see the alpha channel like this. Opaque is the old way where there used to not be an alpha channel in data glitch version 1.0. And then of force will actually chop the original matte through, so almost like you get a window here, as you can see here. And that actually makes for a pretty interesting effect too, because all of the stuff gets rematted back with the original alpha channel. So again, it gives you a pretty cool effect, and yet again another different effect. So as you can see here towards the end, it looks pretty cool. So alright, so that really is it. So I hope you enjoyed this mini tutorial on how to create glitchy type with Data Glitch 2.